Hello and welcome back to the Ghost of Alcantra. So, last time we saw that Vlad openly threatened Alexandria, which explains why she was so sure that he was the murderer, but let's see what else she can show us. Too bad that feeling was wrong, Alexandria. Nobody let you down more than I did. Alexandria told me she was going to tell me her story, but she didn't tell me that she was going to make things up. What she showed me was different from what happened in reality. We said different things in our reunion after the fireworks. We didn't visit a waterfall. This story was made up. She would show me anything to convince me to live. I bet that scene with Vlad was meant to make me think that she was always willing to risk her life to be with me, and to make me feel better about not telling anyone who she was. I wasn't going to be fooled. Why won't you let me be with you, Alexandria? What's left in life for me? I felt my soul wavering, and the scene changed from Alexandria's story back to familiar scenes from my life. I was fading away, back to times without Alexandria. Oh, okay. Bodies moving, lots of them. Loud music, annoyingly loud. Some pop songs, catchy but not particularly memorable. People singing out of tune, probably drunk, though I'm not sure what would help them sing in tune. Not sure that would help them sing in tune. Guys act stupid to try and get attention. Girls pretend they're interested. People are absolutely wasted. Alcohol, red Solo cups everywhere. Some people will hook up. They'll probably regret it, if they remember. And me? I don't belong here. I don't belong anywhere. I tuck myself in a corner while the party rages on, doing my best to hide. I've got a cup of some cheap beer, which is only useful for pretending to drink in case someone tries to talk to me. While scanning the room out of boredom, I accidentally make eye contact with the guy who invited me, a nice guy in my differential equations class with buffness to match the brain responsible for his good test scores. I only accepted the invitation to be here because he helped me study, and I'd feel bad turning him down. I knew I wouldn't have a good time, but unfortunately, this guy, who I don't even remember the name of, is too nice. He's giving me a concerned look, realizing I'm bored and likely feeling personally responsible. I sigh to myself. He'll come over and ask how I'm doing, then I'll have to make up some excuse, then I'd have to interact with these drunk idiots, and then I'd hate myself more than I already do. Why am I even here? Because that guy's too nice and I'm too nice, but not nice enough to do more than show up. I down the rest of my bland beer and swiftly head out of the room to pretend to get a refill. I'll wait till nice guy gets drunk and then I'll leave. If I'm going to waste time, I can at least do it somewhere quieter. While stealthily navigating around the groups of people obnoxiously flirting with each other, I hear a voice as I'm about to enter the kitchen. Why are you even here then? I turn around. It's Warburton, wearing some cheap beer goggles and holding a red Solo cup full of some mysterious green liquid. I can't see his expression, but I can sense his displeasure by the sober frown on his face. I don't think you were invited to this party. I wasn't, but I came to tell you that you're being an asshole. Seems like a waste of time. I already know I'm an asshole. No, you're a depressed sack of shit. You're not usually an asshole. I shrugged in response and casually tossed my cup into the trash behind me. The guy who invited me will survive. That's not what I'm talking about. He jabbed a finger at my chest. I mean about Alexandria. He just had to bring that up. And in what way am I being an asshole to Alexandria?
Being here instead of being there. Can't you at least hear her out?
I snorted.
That?
What's the point? It's not real. You think I don't remember my time with her? I do. Almost every detail. The second we met, after we made our deal, we explored downtown Alcantra together. We didn't cross the bridge, we didn't look at any waterfalls. None of that happened. Let's be real. If I'm still alive, I'm drugged up on painkillers. My brain is attempting to cope to keep me alive. There's no point in believing in some romantic fairy tale. This all had to be a fantasy. It was too convenient. I wanted her to save me, so I recreated her to do so, but I realize the truth now. We're in my head. I'm delusional, but not delusional enough to recognize that whatever Alexandria showed me wasn't reality.
It wasn't reality?
I guess everyone can read my mind when we're in my mind. Funny how that works.
Answer the question, Nick.
It wasn't.
It was.
I didn't respond. Warburton waited a moment, then chugged his beverage in frustration.
It wasn't exactly the same, but how is it not based on reality?
Okay, it's based on reality. But it has to be. It's from my head. That doesn't mean anything. Warburton shook his head vehemently.
It's always about you, isn't it?
If it was all you, then explain how you would know what happened in that conversation between Alexandria and Blade.
I made it up.
Why would you make that up? If your brain's trying to make you live, wouldn't it be all happy scenes? Why would you include Blade threatening Alexandria? It's an excuse for me. I've always regretted not telling anyone who Alexandria really was. This is just a convenient scenario where my not telling anyone about her makes me look good. I nodded several times to try and reassure myself. See? All delusions. Scenarios that didn't happen. Scenarios that justify my actions retroactively. I'm not an idiot. I know Alexandria's dead. I can't run away from that.
But you are running away from that.
How am I running away? I was running away earlier, but I'm not now. Alexandria is dead. I have come to terms with that.
You have come to terms with that.
This wasn't making sense. Then why am I here? Warburton smirked, and between that and his goggles, I wanted to punch him in the face.
That's what I asked you. Why are you here?
He gestured at the party going on around us.
You said you didn't belong here, and you're right about that. You're running away from where you belong right now.
I don't belong anywhere right now.
If you keep thinking that, then you really won't belong anywhere.
What should I think then? That those convenient fantasies are true? I should keep on living because of a delusion? Warburton nodded.
Now we're getting somewhere. Are we? We are. So I'm supposed to believe those delusions. I told you, it's not all about you. They're only delusions if they're coming from you.
Where else would they be coming from? Ghosts aren't real. This isn't real. We're in my head. I'm delusional, but at least I know that much.
Do you know that the conversation between Alexandria and Blade wasn't real? Answer the question, dumbass.
It's not.
And how do you know that?
Because it isn't.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Saying stupid shit is my job.
What else could I say? It wasn't real because I knew it wasn't. I looked away from Warburton and at my feet instead. I knew what he was going to say. He stepped forward and patted me on the shoulder and said what I dreaded him saying.
You want it to be real.
I do, but I know it's not.
Consider what's different in what you've seen so far. Now consider why it's different. Alexandria told you she was telling a story, right? Just because it's a story doesn't mean it isn't real.
It does mean it isn't real.
No, it doesn't. And stop looking at your fucking feet and look at me.
I lifted my head reluctantly. I couldn't help but smile a little.
The goggles are so dumb, man. You're an asshole.
You already said that.
Right, but you weren't getting the message. What do assholes do?
A lot of stuff.
Stop playing dumb. An asshole only thinks about themselves.
Okay, so I'll stop thinking about myself. What next?
Jesus, you're a pain. You know what's next.
There's no point in going back.
Yes, there is. And you know why?
I humored Warburton. Why?
Think for yourself, dude.
Okay, I stopped thinking that whatever is being shown to me is from myself. It's not all about me.
I feel like you're just humoring me.
I am. Warburton sighed.
Well, at least try to think of the value of what's being shown to you. If it wasn't from you that the story you're witnessing is coming from, and it was from Alexandria, what would that mean? Think about that. At the very least, it's better than wallowing at a pitiful party like this.
That was true at least. I didn't know where I belonged, but I definitely didn't belong here.
Because you're at a pitiful party throwing a pity party. I'll give you a hint.
Times are dire when you're giving me hints.
I'm wise about these sorts of things, and you know it.
Warburton smiled at me.
Here's your hint. What are you running away from?
From Alexandria.
Close, but not quite right.
Then what is this lecture about?
I'm thinking big picture, dude. You're running away from Alexandria now, but what are you really running away from?
From myself. From living life. I looked around at the party. This was junior year in college. Just one scene and 1 year among many scenes and many years where I wasn't happy because I couldn't figure out how to live after Alexandria's death. But it had been 10 years. Was I really going to figure it out now?
You have to at least try.
Warburton smiled kindly.
Consider what you're going to see, and even if it's not real, imagine what it means. After all, she only knew you for 2 months, but Alexandria knew you well. I hate to do this as your best friend, but I leave you in her capable hands. She knows you're running away from life. Think about what comes next in light of that.
He stuck his hand out. I gave a weary smile and shook it. Okay, I'll do that.
Promise?
Promise. He nodded and let go.
Good. Now let's get the fuck out of here. This party blows.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
June 8th, 19XX. Other people counted sheep to fall asleep. I counted murderers in the family. It wasn't a conducive strategy for restfulness, given that counting to 2 wasn't particularly difficult, so I laid awake in bed, wondering if guilt and regret ever kept my father and brother up. I was also thinking about something Vlade had likely inadvertently implied, which was that his existence was due to an affair of father's. It would not be surprising. It was well known that Yena and Elga Thorne shared a loveless marriage. Infidelity was probably their favorite pastime to remind themselves that not all relationships had to be as awful as their married lives were. That would explain Yena's hatred of Vlade. She knew he wasn't her child. Who then was Vlade's mother? It had to be Marina Raddick. It was often rumoured that there was something between her and Elga Thorne, and the timing of her leaving the family matched up quite nicely with the birth of Vlade. Did Vlade kill her because of this? That made the most sense, but given his longing for a mother figure in his life, it seemed counterintuitive to murder his actual mother. Then again, Vlade was surprisingly stupid sometimes. Was I afraid of Vlade? Of course not. My only fear was a return to the life I had once lived, because one who is finally free from their cage can never return to it. I had happiness to look forward to. Vlade had only misery. If you want to play these sorts of games, brother, then let us play. You have nothing to gain, and I, everything. Tired of wasting time thinking about Vlade, I turned over and closed my eyes and fell asleep. The next day, Nick and I kicked off our routine of meeting at the gazebo by the canal and exploring Alcantra from there. They say that spring is the season of beginnings, and while it was summer, I felt that I was living in my proverbial spring. My life had surely begun, and I was indulging in the sedative of happiness. It was June, but it was my spring. I did my detective work, but all I really did was create narratives that implicated Vlade as the murderer, given my conjecture that he was the likely culprit. As such, there is no point in recapping my brilliant insights, and instead we should focus on the more mundane, and thus more beautiful, moments between Nick and I. We ate at restaurants, and I learned to overcome the horrors of public dining. We walked trails, and we went shopping. We even visited Lake Superior, though I didn't know how to swim, and even if I did, I figured that I would have a much pleasanter time skipping rocks than freezing in that miserably cold lake. We did so many things, and yet none of them were particularly groundbreaking. These were the sorts of activities that constituted the ordinary and everyday for most people, but for me, these were the sorts of activities that constituted the extraordinary and the once in a lifetime. It's supposedly in the small things that one begins to appreciate life, and that sentiment was doubly true for myself. These small things had not yet become associated with the overly familiar for me like they had for most, and so I knew all too well that they were to be appreciated. Nick and I gradually became closer, and I was willing to elevate the public status of our relationship from acquaintances to friends. I was naturally inclined to be verbally on the offensive, but fortunately for me, Nick seemed to enjoy being made fun of. For the most part this resulted in a fun dynamic between the two of us, but sometimes I worried a little about him. He didn't seem to think very highly of himself. He wanted his existence to be a positive in someone's life, and I tried to reassure him that his was already one in mine. Even then, she knew. Nick, are you happy? We were walking on the boardwalk by the small river on the east side of town, so I could see where the question surprised him, given it had nothing to do with the topic we had been on previously, which was wildlife in the area. What brought that on? I was curious if you were happy. You mean like happy? What does it mean to be happy? I mean, are you asking if I'm happy like right now, or if I'm happy with my life? I guess I'm asking if you're happy with your life then. He thought about it. I think so. What do you mean you think so? How can you not know? Well, if you're thinking about whether or not you're happy, you're probably not. I figure most people who are happy don't think about it much, and I don't think about whether I'm happy very often, so I think I'm probably happy. That made sense. It made too much sense. It explained much about me, given how I very clearly recognized that I was very happy now, and that for most of my life I had not been. Nick looked over at me.
And what about you? Are you happy?
I have not had a happy life, but I'm very happy now. Nick was a little thrown off by the candor of my response.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're happy now.
I gave him a smile. Thank you. You've helped make me very happy after all. I hoped that my admission made him happy as well. However, I knew that we were still a long way from genuine connection, given that I was hiding who I was. Nick often talked about himself, but I could never elaborate on my own personal feelings, because those were so messily entangled with my being a thorn. Even if I told Nick who I was, Blade would have to be dealt with. I decided to try and talk to Father about the possibility of Blade being the murderer without bringing up that Blade had threatened to kill me for revealing that I was a thorn. If I told Father the truth, in his effort to not be usurped as the man of the family, he would probably confront Blade, and we'd all end up dead. Well, I brought the topic up in a meeting with my father, a meeting he arranged to discuss how things were going with me. I told him about Nick and how much I enjoyed exploring Alcantra, and he was very supportive. Then I brought up the real subject I wanted to discuss with him. Father, do you suspect that Blade killed Marina Radek? You could hear a pin drop in the silence that followed. My father narrowed his eyes at me. Suddenly, he was no longer my father, but the acting head of the Thorn family.
Do you think Blade killed her?
I do.
And why is that?
The Thorns or someone associated with them have far and away the most likely motive to murder her, given she worked here previously.
Then why rule out me?
Because I know you cared for her.
You don't know that.
Yes, I do. My father irritatedly clicked his tongue and then changed the subject.
Why suspect Blade and not someone else from this mansion?
I couldn't answer that truthfully without exposing my conversation with Blade. I bluffed a little. Because you know what he's like. He's obsessed with the smooth transition to the head. I bet he'd be willing to kill over it. He was willing to sacrifice my freedom after all. Stony silence followed from my stone-faced father while he examined me. I knew that my father wasn't likely to be my ally. In the future, I was going to have to throw caution to the wind and be truthful about what Blade had threatened me with to get my father to be on my side.
I do not think Blade killed Marina Radek.
And that was that. I still had work to do to convince my father that the legacy of the Thorns was not worth its complete moral degeneration. But keep an eye on him, won't you?
Yes, I'll keep an eye on him. I understand your concern.
That's something. I made to get up from my chair, but my father stopped me.
Alexandria, my answer isn't an indication that I trust Blade. I do not.
I sat back down and then lowered my voice in case there were eavesdroppers by the door. But surely you must realize that Blade is the most likely culprit.
Motive alone does not constitute evidence. Blade and I have both been questioned. There was no evidence that he killed Marina. It is precisely because I do not trust him that I do not think he killed Marina. He would not be foolish enough to jeopardize his headship with murder.
And you weren't foolish enough to jeopardize your headship when you killed Kina? I nearly spat that out at him. He was in denial. My father always believed what was most convenient for him. He only believed that Blade wasn't the murderer because irreparable damage would be done to the Thorn name if it was true. If you say so, Father. I got up and started to leave.
And Alexandria?
I turned around.
I want you to know that I do trust you. I'll think about what you've said.
Thank you, Father, and don't tell Blade what we talked about.
Don't worry, I won't.
My father said he trusted me. Trust. just was important. My father's response gave me a glimmer of hope. With that glimmer of hope came a revitalized belief that I must tell Nick who I was, threat from blade or not. I knew that I didn't want our relationship to stagnate because I remained a mystery to him. He had done so much for me, it was unfair to keep him in the dark. My life wouldn't be at risk if it was in Nick's hands. He would know I'm a thorn, and he would keep that a secret. I made up my mind, then and there, that I would tell Nick Fox that I was Alexandria Thorn. I decided that the occasion of telling Nick who I was deserved its own dedicated outing, and thus I needed to invite him to that occasion. I found a good opportunity on the evening of the 25th of June. It was later in the evening, the sun was setting, and we were in a canoe on the canal. I wasn't much help at rowing because I found the motion extremely awkward, so we mostly just sort of drifted along the water. I thought about my feelings towards Nick. Did I like him? Of course I did. He was my first real friend. Did I love him? No, 2 weeks is too quick to fall in love with someone. Then what was he to me? I could only find that out after I told him who I was. Do you get frustrated with me, Nick? You ask some strange questions out of the blue, you know. Yes, well, they usually have a purpose. What's the purpose of this one? To invite you to something. An invitation? An invitation. Well, what are you inviting me to? My God, you have no sense of build-up or atmosphere. What are we building up to? What's the atmosphere supposed to be like? I sighed dramatically. Let's try this again. Just answer the questions and you'll see what this is all about. Do you think I can be kind of prickly, quick to throw out jabs? He nodded immediately. Oh yes, absolutely. But I like that about you. I hoped he didn't notice me blushing. Thanks. Well, there's a reason for why I'm like that. And do you think I'm a little full of myself? He thought about it. Well, I don't call you a princess for nothing. I smiled. It was funny how he didn't know that nickname was even more fitting than he realized. Well, there's a reason for that as well. There's a reason for everything, Alexandria. Not sure about that, but sure. Well, these are particularly good reasons. So, you want to tell me all about why you're the way you are? Something like that. Perhaps I was drunk on the allure of the glowing sky, but I thought that while I didn't think I was in love with Nick, that it would be wonderful if I was. I leaned over the canoe towards Nick. Do you want to know who I am, where I come from and why I'm here? I was now leaning so far over the canoe that I was nearly in his seat. He turned around to look at me. I do. And I want to tell you, I'm sorry I've been so unfair to you by hiding who I am, but no longer. I want you to know who I am. You know, there was something enticing about you being such a mystery. I laughed. Well, I hope that who I am is even more enticing. Is it going to be a big shock? It's going to be a very big shock. A moment passed and I started thinking stupid things, like if I could fit in a seat with him and whether the canoe would stay afloat like that. And then I realized it definitely wouldn't. Then I thought that I wouldn't care. Then I realized I couldn't swim, and so that would be very bad, but I was wearing a life jacket, so I'd be okay, and then I concluded that friendship was very confusing. That moment, that period of stillness between contemplation and action, continued until Nick ruined things. Well, are you going to tell me? What? I thought you were going to tell me who you are, where you're from, and why you're here. I said this was an invitation. Right, and you invited me to hear about you. You are such an idiot sometimes, Nick.
She also doesn't make it easy on him, but sure. I am.
Yes, you are. I haven't invited you to anything yet.
I shook my head. How could he be so perceptive and so oblivious at the same time? Well, yeah, I think that puts it, that is a good way to put it.
Tomorrow, meet me at 9 p.m, right around sunset, at the cliffs about half an hour from here.
This is beginning to sound like it'll be an awfully dramatic heart-to-heart.
It will be an awfully dramatic heart-to-heart. I told you I had lots of issues.
I guess you did warn me after all.
That's right, I did warn you. So, no running away from our...
I placed my hand on my chest above my heart and then leaned over to Nick, placing my hand over his heart.
Heart to heart.
I was feeling awfully proud of my boldness until Nick put his hand over mine, which caused me to recoil out of surprise and happiness and confusion, and with a yelp from me and a loud fuck from Nick, we both tumbled out of the canoe. Nick was very panicked about the whole thing, trying to keep me afloat since he knew I couldn't swim, but I was wearing a life jacket, so I was fine. I was laughing the entire time. Nick held on to me while I learned how to tread water. This time I didn't move away. I let him hold me to reassure himself that I wouldn't drown. After he eventually calmed down and we pushed the canoe back to the shore, he finally responded to my invitation. I'll be there. Okay, even the invitation very dramatic. June 26th, 19XX. The following day, I looked back at my defiant self in the mirror before heading out. I thought back to Vlade's words. Anyway, if I found out you've revealed you're a thorn to someone, I'll kill you. That's what Vlade had told me. My dance with death didn't involve swords or guns, but telling someone who I was. Vlade's threat was real, but so was my resolve. If I had to risk death in order to live, then so be it. I left early, given the distance I had to walk. I had picked out our meeting location from a map. The reason I picked the spot was because it was secluded, had high elevation, and was near a cliff, adding to the drama of the situation. Really, you considered that as well? Okay. I always had a tendency for theatrics, not that I had any intention of throwing myself off the cliff if things went sour. The timing was so that I could leave after I told Nick what I wanted to tell him. I wanted him to have time to think, and I was too afraid of his immediate answer. I arrived at the location an hour early and set myself upon the stage I had prepared. I thought of the things I was going to tell him and waited. He emerged from the clearing a couple of minutes before our scheduled meeting time. I said nothing while he approached me. I waited for him to make the first move. Hey, Alexandria. Sorry for keeping you waiting.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry it was so out of the way.
No kidding. How do you know this place anyway?
I can read maps.
Really? I don't think I've ever read a map. Probably don't need it in that town.
I think you barely know how to read, so that's not particularly surprising. Thankfully, all you'll have to do today is listen. He was here, and I was ready. There was no point in delaying things. It was showtime now. I wheeled around to briefly glance at the sun to grant me courage, and then spun back around again to face Nick. I gave a polite, small curtsy. There's a lot I want to tell you, but we should start with this. We haven't been properly introduced. I am Alexandria Thorne. I then told him about myself, starting with the background of the Thorns, the ridiculous rules they held themselves to, and the justifications my father had for my imprisonment. I told Nick what my life had been like up until recently, and how it contributed to the way I was. I then told him that I suspected my father had murdered Yenna Thorne, and that my brother almost certainly murdered Marina Reddick. While I told Nick all of this, I tried not to look at him too much. Unsurprisingly, he first expressed shock at what I told him, but I didn't want to know what he felt like now. I was too afraid of what expression I might see. And this is the most important part. You have to promise me not to tell anyone. A lot is at stake.
What's at stake?
I couldn't tell him that. If he knew that Vlad was threatening me, he might try to do something. I couldn't risk that. My brother was a murderer. Even though Vlad had said he wouldn't touch Nick, I couldn't take that risk. My life could be forfeit, but Nick's could not. A lot.
You can't tell me.
I can't.
He nodded like that settled the matter. I understand. I promise I won't tell anyone.
What? Is that it?
What do you mean?
You're not going to fight about it? Or ask more?
I'm not. You asked me to promise to keep quiet, so I will.
It's that easy for you?
It's that easy for me.
I had told him who I was. I was supposed to have left already to let him think about things. This, such an easy acceptance and subsequent promise. Okay, I know you need time to think this over, so...
I don't need time to think this over.
What?
I don't need time to think it over, Alexandria. There's nothing to think about. What you've told me is surprising, shocking even. It changes everything I know about you, but it also changes nothing. Nothing will change between us, Alexandria.
My heart soared. I'd hoped to be accepted, but this quickly, so resolutely. I had to protest to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Yeah, sure, Nick. You really must think about it. It's just so...
He cut me off. I'm sure, Alexandria.
He was an idiot. A foolish, hopeless idiot. Nothing could have made me happier, but I had his happiness to worry about as well. My father is a murderer, so is my brother, and you can just accept that. I was nearly shouting. The actions of your father and brother have nothing to do with you. Like hell they don't. I'm tied to them. Accepting me means accepting the family I'm a part of.
I accept that you're a Thorne, but that doesn't mean you're a murderer or complicit with murders or responsible for the sins of the Thornes. Don't place a burden you don't deserve onto yourself.
Surely you understand what being involved with me means.
I do, Alexandria.
He was nearly shouting himself now.
And I want every part of it. I want to be by your side.
By my side? It was unfortunate that the cliffside lay behind me. I could hardly keep myself upright now. I was falling. He was staring at me so resolutely, so determinedly, like he couldn't believe how foolish I was being. Did he not realize that he was the one being foolish? Had I felt this feeling before? No, this was different. I was falling. You know that being by my side, it won't be easy.
Nick laughed. No doubt about that.
And you're okay with that?
I'm more than okay with it. I want it, Alexandria. I can handle it.
I had no idea why I was making excuses, trying to push him away. Perhaps I was frightened. What came after this? I didn't know. What happens next could only be conceived in dreams for Alexandria Thornes. I had already dreamed so much these past few weeks. Could I dare to dream even more? Then I looked at Nick, and I knew that I must. If not for my own happiness, then at the very least I must respect his foolish wishes. His wonderfully foolish desire to stand by a woman who brought so much potential for misery and pain. I mustn't repay his courage with cowardice. Nick Fox, you are an idiot. He laughed.
Gee, thanks.
But I'm very glad you are an idiot.
I'm glad that you're glad that I'm an idiot, but you must not think very highly of me.
I think the world of you, Nick. What makes you think that?
What kind of guy do you think I'd have to be to tell you all that junk about wanting to make a positive impact on someone's life and then run away as soon as things don't get easy? It would be pretty terrible for me to be your introduction to the world and then also be your introduction to how horrible it is. What you told me wasn't junk. I knew you were a wonderful person. I wouldn't go so far as saying wonderful.
You undervalue your kindness as only someone who cares for others can. I know that I don't have the experience to be saying this, but I doubt most people would have been as understanding about me as you have been.
I think your opinion on others is a little low.
I smiled. Perhaps so, but alas, it was you I met that fateful night. Pity yourself that of all the new people you could have met during that festival, you met me.
He smiled in return. It has its perks too. He stuck out his hand. Deals are kind of my thing, so let's shake on it. I promise to keep your secret safe and will continue to be by your side.
I looked at his hand and then back at him. This is your last chance, Nick. His hand remained where it was. There was no convincing him. I was glad. I shook his hand. We have a deal then.
Looking forward to everything.
Those words served as the conclusion to the foolish little love poem we had written together. I suppose I shouldn't speak for Nick, but his words had me hoping like I hadn't dared hope before. As for myself, I knew that I had fallen in love. It was not the teasing, the bantering, the meetings, the explorations of Alcantra that had led me to fall in love with Nick, though all of that was uniquely wonderful. The moment he had accepted who I was and all that entailed, that feeling I felt afterwards, I knew immediately that I was in love. It was funny, the only things I knew about love previously were from stories, either from fiction or from the anecdotes of those who lived in the mansion with me. Love to me was only as real as all the other elements that could only be experienced beyond the gates of the Thorn Mansion. I knew it existed, but it was mere knowledge, not understanding. Yet, despite that, in an instant, I knew that I was in love, as certain as I knew anything in the world. It was late when I returned home. I returned to my bedroom to grapple with these new and overwhelming feelings. Should I be ashamed? I had barely known Nick for 2 weeks. That was far too quick to fall in love with someone. Was I really so starved for love that I fell for the first man I met? If it was not Nick, would I have fallen head over heels all the same? Just a biological and sociological inevitability given my unique upbringing? No. Who cared? I had dreamed for so long. Let me dream a bit longer. Why try to rationalize these feelings? The reasons why one falls in love are irrelevant. I was in love. It was wonderful. I was happy. Then why should I question the foundation of that love, that wonderfulness, and that happiness? If I was determined to ruin all of this, there were more effective methods than determining the genesis of my falling in love with Nick. I basked in the remnants of the dream that had finally become reality for me. I had never been so happy, but at the same time, I had never been so overwhelmed. How did people deal with these overpowering feelings? Was the rest of my life going to involve these violent emotions? The answer was obviously yes. Everyone had these emotions. A pang of sadness hit me. My feelings. They were my own, but my sentiments were not unique. Falling in love was a commonplace, everyday sort of thing. Almost everyone fell in love at some point. Love was just a feature of the universe.
What a sentence. A feature of the universe.
I thought of Nick. He wasn't like me. He was popular with others. He even had 2 girlfriends in the past. If by some wonderful chance he felt the same way about me as I do him, it was not the first time he felt like that. He had fallen in love before. He had held the hands of other girls. He had kissed other girls. He had declared his love to other girls. This was nothing new to him. I knew that most relationships were temporary and not eternal. It was likely that he would feel all of this again later, with someone else. I was just one girl in his life. There were girls before me, and there were likely to be girls after me. That realization, it hurt me. It wounded me deeply. I also knew that it could be the same for me, that there would be boys after Nick. I tried to imagine my feelings for Nick directed towards someone else, and I couldn't. The thought that this feeling wasn't unique was horrible, but I knew I was being naive. For all the dreaming of love I had done, I had only thought of the beauty, the hope, and all the good that was associated with love. But of all things in the world, love carried the most potential for pain. What a troublesome feeling. Was I really so happy to be in love then, knowing that my happiness could be my destruction later? Yes, I was. I was very happy. If this was a dream, let me keep dreaming. If this was reality, let it continue to be real. If all of these feelings came to an end someday, I would be glad that I got to feel this way, even for an instant. Perhaps all this importance I felt would eventually amount to nothing. Perhaps I would be just one girl in Nick's life and Nick one boy in mine. Even so, I was glad I was in love with him now, and I hoped he was in love with me. There is no shame in being one among many, to be a star in the sky. At long last, I could shine in the sky along with everyone else. Overjoyed and overwhelmed, I grabbed my pillow and held it to my chest. I imagined the pillow as my feelings, these powerful and violent emotions, and held them close to my heart and hoped they would remain there forever. The night passed and I slowly drifted off towards dreams as I held onto my dream of love. So they're both very romantic.
Man, teenagers' first love.
It is special, so yeah. Keep holding on to that. June 27th, 19XX. I descended from the wonderful world of dreams to the waking realm as I hopped from my bed to the floor. Moments later, the harshness of reality was thrown into my face when Clarence told me the news that Beryl Johnson had been killed. I could scarcely hear him as he worriedly told me the details. I was too furious. Clarence informed me that father wanted to see me, presumably to brief me on what was to be done if the mansion was investigated. I told him I'd go in a minute and asked for a moment to myself. Once he left the room, I ran to my pillow that had served as an accompanying prop to my reflections on love yesterday and changed its role to punching bag. I smacked it a couple of times, put my face into it, and let out a silent scream. Yes, my screams were silent. Neither my father nor my brother had heard them all these years. How could Flade kill another person? And my father, how could he let him? I was furious at the moral degradation of my family and at the potential risk their actions, and inaction in the case of my father, had for the people around me. Even someone as kind-hearted as Nick must have considered the possibility that I was using him to benefit my family. Even if he hadn't considered the possibility, he had to consider it now. Well, it doesn't quite make sense to me, but okay. I braced myself to meet with my father. I had to convince him to turn on Blade. I had no other option. I knocked on my father's door. "It's me, Father."
"Come in."
He looked tired, but I had no sympathy for his plight in trying to maintain the Thorn legacy. He would be much happier and much less tired if he would just do the right thing. I wasted no time. I spoke in an urgent whisper in case Vlad was attempting to listen in on us. "Father, you must know the murderer has to be Vlad." My father wearily rubbed his eyes.
"That's not what I wanted to talk about, Alexandria."
"But it's what we must talk about."
"And what evidence do you have that Vlad is the murderer?"
"There's no one with a motive besides him."
"That's not evidence, Alexandria. And what reason would Vlad have to kill Beryl Johnson?"
"She's part of the anti-tourist groups. She had personal history with Marina Raddick. There's plenty of reasons he could have wanted her dead."
"Those reasons apply to other people too, Alexandria."
I had to change tactics. I wasn't getting through to him. However, I had an ace up my sleeve still. It was a dangerous ace, and I hadn't even thought about using it the last time I talked to Father, but things had changed. The happiness I had found yesterday gave me the courage I needed now. "I know Vlad is capable of killing, Father. He threatened to kill me if he found out I told others about who I was." My father's eyes widened.
"Vlad really said that?"
"He did." My father slowly leaned back into his chair. I had said it. A part of me realized that this was incredibly foolish. It was one thing to place my life in the hands of Nick, a good person. It was another to place my life in the hands of my father. There were many words to describe my father, but good was not an applicable one.
"It's just a scare tactic, Alexandra, albeit a horrible one."
"He meant it, Father. He's too far gone to not be willing to lose it all."
"Even so, it doesn't mean he actually did kill Marina Raddick or Beryl Johnson."
"Father!" How ignorant could he be? He wouldn't see Vlad as the murderer until he could give up on the family name, and he would never give up on the family name. "You're a coward, Father." His eyes narrowed dangerously.
"What did you say?"
"I said, you are a coward." I repeated each word slowly. "You are too afraid to admit that you've raised a murderer for a son. You are too afraid to have the family's reputation ruined. You are too afraid to do the right thing." It was time to find out if my father loved his daughter only when she was obedient, or if he loved her for all she was. Silence enveloped us. After several moments, several very, very long moments, my father responded to me.
"You are right that I've treated Vlad poorly. I'm to blame in that regard. But you're wrong to insinuate that my fear of the family's reputation being destroyed is a failing of mine. It is your legacy too, Alexandria. You cannot escape being a thorn. Do you want to see this family destroyed?"
What a stupid question. Did he realize who he was asking? If this family houses a murderer and someone who shelters that murderer willingly, then this family should be destroyed. Yep. My father had nothing to say in response to that. I gave him a moment to reflect before continuing. "Have you been hindering the investigation, Father?" No delay in his response.
"Yes, I've been trying to slow it down and to keep the staff out of it."
"And have you been hindering the investigation because you're afraid that your son is the culprit?" A small delay.
"Yes."
"That's all I have to say then, Father. Please don't tell Vlad you know he threatened me. Both of our lives are at stake. I have no doubt he'd kill both of us. And please, think about whether or not it's worth harboring a murder for the reputation of this family." I made to get up, but my father waved me back down towards my seat.
I won't tell Vlad what you've told me, but don't go yet. We still have to discuss what I called you here for.
I had forgotten all about that. I assume it's about an investigation of the mansion. The faintest hint of a smile appeared on my father's face.
You're a sharp one.
I ignored the compliment. He gave me instructions on what to do. It was easy enough. My room was to be made out to be a guest room. If I was in the mansion when an investigation occurred, I was to hide in one of our many hiding spots. We had plenty on each floor. I just kept nodding through the whole talk. It was a depressing reminder that for all the fire I had come with, my father remained unmoved and was still most preoccupied with the details of keeping the Thorn name untarnished. It was stupid of me to expect goodness from a bad person. After the talk, I glumly started to head out.
Alexandria, you said some hurtful things today.
I turned around. I meant every word. To my surprise, he gave a small smile, the sort of smile you'd give to someone you were proud of.
I have many regrets in my life, my treatment of Vlad among them. But my biggest was robbing you of the life you deserved. In another life, you would have made a fine head of the family.
Head of the family? Me? I had never even considered the idea because it was never treated like a possibility. My father continued while I tried to process what he had just said.
I said this last time, but I will think about what you have said, Alexandria. I will make you a compromise. If there is evidence against Vlad, I will do something.
I couldn't believe it. I had gotten through to him. Well, kind of. But kind of getting through to him was a miracle in itself. You mean it, Father?
I mean it.
When I walked out of the room, I entertained the thought of becoming the head of the family. In one way, Vlad's arrest would destroy the family. In another, it would save it. The Thorn name need not die, it just needed to be reborn. Becoming the head would solve everything. I could be with Nick and do my best to rebuild the family to, a family with less murderous tendencies.
The bar's low, eh?
If only it wasn't such an unlikely solution. Oh boy. I always showed up to our meeting nearly 45 minutes early. The reason for this initially had been excitement, but now it had become such a tendency that I was loath to let Nick take this pleasure away from me. It was a pride thing. He could show up first to our dates over my dead body. Oh dear. I spent the time waiting at the gazebo, wondering if he'd even show up. After the sense of accomplishment from what I had achieved with my father had cooled off, I remembered that Nick very well might have backtracked on his previous sentiments, given he now knew I belonged to a family of murderers. Sweet words are sweet only when true, they're poison otherwise. Yet I had placed my life in Nick's hands for a reason, and to prove that I was correct in my judgment, Nick showed up right on time with a smile and a wave. I thought you might not come.
Why wouldn't I?
Don't play dumb. You heard the news.
He smiled at me. I thought that you might be worried. Actually, I wanted to do something that would show that I wasn't all talk, except it was kind of hard to think of what I could do.
Showing up was good enough.
Yeah, but you have low standards.
Yep. I do not.
Yeah, you do. Showing up is most definitely not good enough. I said a lot of things last night. What sort of guy would I be if I didn't mean them?
A total scumbag. The worst of the worst. Absolute trash.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of people who say things they don't mean, and you're too trusting. I planned to give you a really pretty speech, just lay it on thick that I was serious, but I changed my mind.
What? I mean, I didn't change my mind about doing something, but about giving you a speech. I think you've heard enough of those. What makes you say that? Oh, just the feeling that in a previous life I gave you a speech, so at least in this world, maybe I do something new. I'm rather fond of speeches, actually. I did enough talking last night. It's time I did more showing. Except all I can do is like metaphorical shit, but I think it might still leave an impact. Okay then, what did you have in mind? Have you heard of Dropway Mountain? What kind of a name is that? I guess you haven't then. It's a mountain a couple miles north of here. I want us to go there. And what does that have to do with showing me that you're trustworthy? Actually, it's more to show that I trust you. You'll see, I have something planned. So we headed off, as we so often had these 2 weeks, me riding behind Nick, hands on his shoulders, standing on the back of his bike. We reached the base of the mountain half an hour later, nostalgically reminding me of our first excursion to the waterfall in Hamacha. Nick led me along the pathway up the mountain. So, the view at the top is nice of course, but Dropway Mountain is known for its narrow staircase that leads to an observation deck that's built into the side of the mountain. The stairs can be a little scary, hence the name Dropway. It's a really cool experience, makes you feel like you're inside a mountain but also looking over the world. So, all that stuff you said earlier was just an excuse for a date? No, I got something I want to show you at the top. Don't worry, I wasn't bluffing. It's fine if you were bluffing. I know how you guys can get sometimes. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm trying to impress something on you, Alexandria. There's a difference. That sounds like some nonsense I'd say. I didn't realize you were so aware. Oh, shut up. Languidly, we made our way up, letting ourselves indulge in the comfort and familiarity of our banter. Time flies when you're having fun. There was something to that phrase. The lucidity of reality was most apparent in the itty-bitty, in the T of a much longer word. The vivacity and continuity of the world around us faded away, as our own little world, a duality becoming a unity, overtook it. We summited Dropway Mountain in 35 minutes that felt more like 35 seconds. Okay, so what now? Right. He pointed towards some steps to the side of us. Let's head over there. The fabled narrow staircase lived up to its name. Forget tourist attraction, this was a tourist trap. As in, the hell were they thinking, making a staircase that narrow? This seemed like a lawsuit waiting to happen. I wasn't particularly afraid of heights, but I looked at Nick skeptically. He nodded understandingly. Pretty hazardous looking, right? Are you sure you're not trying to show off? He nodded again. Absolutely. I hate heights. So, why are we here then? You've decided to trust me, and I'm trying to show that I trust you. He reached into his pocket and brought out a blindfold. What? I'm going to put this on. I could see where this was going now. You don't mean... Yes, I do mean. I trust you, Alexandria. I can say it all I want, but I want to show it too. Your family is what it is. I still trust you. I'm going to put the blindfold on and go down those stairs, but I can only do that with your help. My life is in your hands. That's kind of dumb. Thing is, even if you trust someone, you don't have to put yourself in danger for it. That's like two different things. Nick, like a lot of things you say and do, this is very sweet, but it's also very stupid. Agreed. I mean, I guess you were right, I am trying to show off in a way, but it's like a good showing off, right? Does showing off have to be so dangerous? Of course, otherwise it's not showing off. And it's not dangerous unless you make it dangerous for me.
I'll be perfectly safe unless you push me off or let go of my hand or something.
If I let go, just take the blindfold off, dummy. If this was an excuse for us to hold hands, it may have been the most elaborately constructed plan to do so of all time. And maybe perhaps it was also the sweetest. I smiled at him. Put the blindfold on then.
Right, let's do this. He put the blindfold on and I reached out and grabbed his hand. I then led him to the edge of the staircase. I held on to his hands and positioned myself so I would be walking down the stairs backwards. There was a rail, but I ignored it so I could hold both of his hands. I'd have to be a little careful myself, but this was child's play for me. I risked death every time I met with Nick. That's still different. Use the rail. I risked death just this morning by telling my father that Vlad had threatened my life. This was nothing new to me. Careful placement of my feet was something I had much more control of compared to other things at risk of ending my life.
Okay, down we go, Nick.
All you, Alexandria.
So we began our weird trust exercise of a date. I'd take a quick look back, place both of my feet on the corresponding step, and then give Nick instructions to help him place his feet on the step I had just left, all while holding his hands. I had to tell him how I felt. Outdated ideas of chivalry would have the burden of romantic confession fall on Nick's shoulders, but given the unique nature of our relationship, I wanted to be the one who did it. Perhaps the only thing that really distinguished humans from other living things was the ardentness with which we loved. I wanted to prove that finally, after all these years, Alexandria Thorne was a human being. But that was for another time. A confession here might send both of us over the railing. As romantic as the idea that others would interpret our deaths as a lover's suicide was, I had much more life I wanted to live with Nick. I was a little sad when we reached the observation deck, though my sentiments were understandably not shared with Nick. The moment I told him we reached the landing, he ripped the blindfold off.
Fucking finally!
I smirked while he wiped sweat off his forehead. What? And I thought you trusted me.
I did. And I do. But damn, 18 stairs is a lot.
I can't believe you counted.
Heights suck.
He gave me a little glance.
And, well, heights aside, I hope you know that I trust you.
I know you trust me, Nick, and I'm glad you do.
Great.
He looked relieved. I thought it was now my opportunity to utilize an excuse for us to hold hands. I reached out and grabbed the hand that wasn't holding the blindfold. Wouldn't want you to get scared up here. Let's go see that view now.
But we're not getting too close to the railing, right?
What? You don't trust me?
Oh boy.
Hand in hand, both of us having likely admitted our feelings in our hearts, but not aloud, we resumed our date. From the observation deck, you could see Alcantra, Hamatra, the bridge, and the canal. Down below was an audience of trees applauding for Nick and I. It didn't take the view for me to realize how far we had come. June 27th, 19XX. The pendulum of my life had been swinging wildly from one extreme to another the last couple of weeks, a far cry from the unmovingness that captured most of my life. Given the happiness I felt now, symmetry dictated that there must be something to balance that out. Right on cue, I found Vlad waiting for me at the end of the secret passage. Sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is the train barreling towards you. Did Vlad find out that I had told Nick who I was? Did he find out that I had told Father that he had threatened me and that I suspected him of the murders? If he indeed wanted to kill me, running away would only delay the inevitable. If I was to die, I'd rather march forward to death than have it capture me. I spoke with my most irritated voice. What do you want? He raised an eyebrow.
You've been awfully cold to me recently.
Well, you threatened to kill me last time, so you'll forgive me if I'm not particularly excited to see you here again.
That's a fair point. The good news is that I don't have any threats to levy out today. I just wanted to check in on how you were doing.
I find that hard to believe.
I probably deserve the skepticism, but it's the truth. I just wanted to chat.
Here? In a tunnel?
Nothing wrong with a little privacy.
It didn't seem like my life was in immediate danger, though I didn't know what Vlad could want then. Well then, get on with it. What do you want to talk about?
Damn, straight to business.
He got off the wall he was leaning against and turned to face me.
Do you think I'm responsible for the murders?
I didn't even hesitate. Yes. Vlad didn't get mad. In fact, he gave me a smile.
That's understandable. After all, I did threaten to kill you. Well, what I wanted to do was give a little evidence that I wasn't just saying things to scare you 2 weeks ago.
Evidence? You're gonna give me evidence of your murders? Even you wouldn't be that stupid. He laughed.
No, I'm not admitting to the murders, but I will give you evidence that I am able to kill, and that if I did kill someone, there's nothing that can be done to stop me.
That's as good as a confession.
No, it isn't. I'm just trying to show you that between me or father, you should be more afraid of me.
So you're threatening me again?
No, this week I just want to talk. Consider it a little lecture on my hubris. I've accomplished an awful lot in the past couple of years.
He brushed his hands, though they didn't look dirty at all.
Alexandria, I know you think I'm a murderer, and I am, but for a totally different reason than you think. I've been destroying lives for quite some time now.
What do you mean?
Take Gerald Carr. You wouldn't know him. He used to own a cement company here in Alcantra. I killed him.
What?
Oh no, not that kind of killing. No, this isn't the sort of killing that shows up in the news, but it's the sort of killing that's very, very common. It's what our family specializes in.
Vlad gave a sick sort of smile, like he was gloating.
A couple of years ago, I bought out Gerald Carr's company, but that was after the company was already dead. You see, I didn't want the cement company. I wanted the area it was located in. It's a good location right on the southeast docks of the canal. Unfortunately, he wasn't willing to sell, but I get what I want. I slowly took down his business by backing his competitors and buying out his employees.
So you were a scummy businessman. I don't see what I don't see what that has to do with killing him.
Oh, but I did kill him. I just did it slowly. I looked into Gerald Carr. He had other issues, gambling debts among them. He also had a wife and kid he needed to support. I knew I could take advantage of that. I could have just increased the offer to convince him to sell, but I knew what sort of man I was dealing with. I slowly bled him dry. I encouraged the debt collectors to get nasty. I even sent a couple of bribes. His wife took the kid and left. Eventually, his company was no more and it went bankrupt. Took me about a year to do. I then bought it for basically no cost at all.
That's
killing a man. Gerald Carr committed suicide a year after I bought his company. I took a man who had issues, took advantage of those issues, and bled him for all he was worth, just to get a cheaper price on some land. He lost his family, his career, his money, his land, and eventually his life. It was a slow death.
That's horrible, but it's still different than what happened to Marina Reddick or Beryl Johnson.
It's different, but it's still killing. And you know what? Gerald Carr is just one of my many victims. He's just my favorite story to tell because he actually did end up dying. Your favorite story to tell? Wow. My job, if you want to call it that, is to ruin people in the name of making the thorns even stronger. Our ambitions extend past Alcantra. Alcantra is just our base. Our influence lies all over the Midwest. Flay changed the subject before I could respond. Father hit me many times. Do you know what the most common reason for his doing so?
I don't.
It was because he thought I was too soft. I had a hard time letting go of the idea that people's lives were being affected by my actions. Father was trying to prove a point, just like his father had done to him. When Father thought I didn't make the right decision, he'd get out the riding crop and hit me, and hit me, and hit me, until I got the point.
That's horrible.
It is, isn't it? What's even more horrible is that it worked. I'm now a killer Father could only dream of being. I even rather enjoy it. Just think of this all as a game and suddenly, it's not so bad.
Blade, just because you were treated poorly.
I don't want to hear your pity or sympathy, Alexandria. That's in the past. What's done is done. I just wanted to tell you that, yes, I am a capable killer and have been trained to be one. Every thorn who takes over the headship is. Father, even if he was subjected to this treatment as well, it wasn't right how he treated Flade or myself. He wasn't to be forgiven, even if he was beginning to potentially realize his mistakes now. Yet, having said that, Flade wasn't to be forgiven either. Badness for a reason doesn't excuse that badness. Exactly. Having been treated badly, like it can be a, as I said, it can be a reason for why you turn out the way you do, but it's not an excuse, and it never will be.
Blade, if you didn't kill Marina or Beryl, please don't start killing. If you did, please stop.
Blade looked at me contemplating whether I said something sensible or outrageous. You still think I'm the killer?
More than ever.
He nodded. Good, good. Wouldn't want you to think that threat on your life wasn't serious. There was nothing anyone could do for this man anymore. Even if I was the killer, there's nothing anyone could do about it. He spread his arms wide. Look at me, Alexandria. I traded my soul for the soul of this town. I am Alcantra. Jerry in the police force, he's accounted for already. I've promised him any woman he wants, any job he wants, any amount of money. I have connections in the police force, the hospital, and the fire department. Look in every nook and cranny of Alcantra, and you'll find me. If I was to decide to kill anyone in Alcantra, I could choose anyone in the town to be my accomplice. This was a challenge, and it was a challenge he couldn't lose. They sent one detective. One? Can you believe it? If I did do it, there's nothing one detective can do. Whatever I want, whatever story I decided to tell, that's what will happen. You think justice can trump power? Well, it can't. So you have better things to do than suspect me, Alexandria. I cannot be caught simply because I'm not allowed to be caught. He was goading me. I'm a murderer and there's nothing you can do about it. He was right. I really couldn't do anything to him myself. But there was something I still could do. There was still one man who rivaled Vlad for power in this town.
You're still afraid of Father, Vlad.
I wanted to rattle him, let him know that I knew he was compensating for his insecurity about how his life had turned out. Unfortunately, as far as megalomaniacs go, Vlad was a self-aware and honest one. Yes, I still do fear Father. The nasty psychological imprints he left on me haven't faded yet. I doubt they ever will.
He sneered at me.
But it goes both ways, Alexandria. He's afraid of me, terrified even. It's really his own fault for succeeding in training me. I'm everything Father wanted me to become, and then some. The transition of the headship is only a formality. I've been running the Thorn family for the past couple of years.
Blade let the sneer come off his face and adopted a more morose look.
So, if you think Father can stop me, you're wrong.
He turned around towards the exit of the passage.
Anyway, thank you for listening, Alexandria. I'm sorry I did so much talking, but think about what I've said. If you have to choose between a man who is terrible and a son who he made even more terrible, then you have some pretty bad options. I just stay out of this. Stay out of my way, Alexandria, and nothing happens to you. Good night.
He headed out of the tunnel, his powerful yet extremely pitiful form slowly receding into the distance. Choose between my father or my brother? Blade was right in that regard. Neither of those were very good options. The Thorn family needed to go, or it needed to change. Blade could not be changed. I was convinced of that. Could my father? Probably not fundamentally at least. Could he be changed enough? I sighed to myself. I didn't know. It was a depressing thought that I was powerless on my own, and that I had to rely on the moral regeneration of an older man who had murdered his wife, abused his son, and locked up his daughter. I started walking back to the mansion. Depressing thought indeed. Oh boy. And we're gonna leave it at that screen again. I assume Nick is gonna again claim that trust exercise day didn't happen. But did it really not? Is it... Or did he forget? Or is it something she wished happened? I don't know. Again, still quite interesting to see her perspective and her... yeah, what she had to deal with, basically. But yeah, that's it from me for today. As always, I'd appreciate if you'd let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, bye bye.